everybody, welcome back to Garden Time with Belle. First things first, I want to show you my adorable, cute t-shirt. Easily distracted by plants. Isn't that adorable? I mean, you might as well have some fun gardening t-shirts, right? Because gardening's fun. So anyhow, today I'm in my greenhouse because this is where I'm going to work on a project that I'm really nervous about. I'm going to try to pre-sprout some Dahlia tubers. Never done that before. So today's the day I'm going to take the plunge and do it. Why am I going to do it? Because last year when I planted out my tubers in my raised bed garden, they did not bloom until probably mid-September. And remember, I'm in a zone 6B in mid-Missouri, and I tell you what, if they just finally start blooming in mid-September and then early October comes around and we get a massive blast of cold, I mean, 2 weeks to enjoy dahlias, 2 or 3 weeks is not enough. And so I did some research online and I saw where lots of people like to pre-sprout them to get them a head start on the season so that they bloom earlier in late summer and you get to enjoy those gorgeous blooms longer. Oh, do you hear that clickety clack? I hope that's not distracting. So you've seen enough of my videos recently to know that April, where I live, is windy, 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 and it is horribly windy again today. And I'm looking up here because that is my auto exhaust in my greenhouse, and that has little metal louvers, and they keep, when the wind gusts hit, they keep flapping. So sorry about that. If you hear that in the background, that's what that is. Anyways, focus. Okay, so I've done some research online on how different people like to pre-sprout their tubers, their dahlia tubers, and I'm getting some conflicting advice. So I'm going to just try a method that I've seen a lot of people do, but it is sort of in opposition to what Swan Island Dahlias would say. Swan Island is an amazing company. I get a lot of my dahlias from them via mail order. What they would say is they would have me take the entire tuber, stick it in a big, quite a big container. I'm looking over here at my containers. I was going to show you one. Quite a big container. Well, to be honest with you, I don't want to use that much soil to pot up all my dahlia tubers. That's a lot of potting soil. So I am going to try the trenching method in trays. And I'll, of course, show you what I mean a little bit. A lot of people do that, where you bury everything on the tuber except for the neck and the little crown where the eyes are. And the eyes is where the roots, the shoots, not the roots, the shoots come out and up through the soil. So I'm going to try it today. I'm a little bit nervous. First things first, though, I have to take you inside the house and show you where I store my dahlia tubers all winter long. And then I've got to make some space here in the greenhouse on my work table, which is filled with seedlings that have been going, some have been going for a couple months, some of them maybe been going 3 or 4 weeks. Want to give you an update on all the things I started from seed this year. So let's get busy, and fingers crossed that I don't screw this up and that I can get my dahlia tubers pre-sprouted in the ground in 3 or 4 weeks. And hopefully that means I'm going to have blooms earlier in the fall rather than way late in the season. So wish me luck. So here I am in my basement, ready to check on my tubers and get them out of storage. And I like to use a little mini fridge because it can maintain its 45-degree temperature consistently. And how do I know that? Well, I set the dial here, but also then, this is really old school, but we keep a cup of water in here and a thermometer. And so it's allows me to come in. Oops, is that upside down? Yeah. Allows me to come in and check to make sure it is at the proper temperature. If you look at that, it's like a perfect 45 degrees, and that's what most tubers like for storage. So There they are. So I'll be pulling these out, taking them out to the greenhouse, and let's get started on pre-sprouting. Since we're working in the greenhouse today to get my Dahlia tubers to pre-sprout, before we do that, I have to clear some space to work so I can show you all the process. But while we're here, let's give you an update. So in this tray, my seedlings, I've got Gomphrena and stock. Started these a couple of months ago. I've got loads of tomatoes and basil. In this tray, I've got all 6 varieties of pepper plants, some hot and some mild. And this seed tray, I've got Dahlia seedlings, Cancun Girls. This is the floret seeds that she just started selling this year. Never grown dahlias from seeds, so I am super excited about that option. Let's take a look at this sad little tray. I'm not so sure that this is going to work out. So I think my pansies were a miss. These 2 rows are my pansies, and yeah, I think forget about the pansies. I'm just going to buy them at the market. My snapdragons, oh, I don't know what I did wrong, but they are not looking so great. Some are doing fair. I've never grown snapdragons from seeds, so that's a little disappointing, but oh well, not everything can be perfect. Over here, we've got leeks. I love to cook with leeks, and so I've started leeks, and they are doing great. Let me see here. What is this? So these have only been, I think I started these, I think only 3 or 4 weeks ago. So they're pretty young ones, but this is Agastache or Agastache, and this is Salvia Victoria Blue. So 2 different varieties of flowers. These are my celosia, and they're doing fine. I'm really happy about the germination rate with those. A really purple, a beautiful purple Asian, I think Asian garden celosia. This tray, I've got parsley, chives, and onion starts. And of course, you know I love my nasturtiums, so I started some more. And I showed you in a recent video, actually, how I started those by, I forgot to pre-soak them, so I took the seeds, and it's called scarification, where you take a little knife and cut off the hard outer coating, a little piece of that. They're doing great. Not 100% germination, but that's all right. But look at the marigolds. If you want to grow an easy flower, these were started on March the 24th, and what is it? Today is April the 10th, I think. Is that right? April 11th. But look at these babies. So yeah, anyhow, really happy with all my seedlings. Pretty soon, because I sowed so many, I will be splitting these up when they get a little bit bigger, and so I can give some away and keep some for my garden. So let's make some space to work with the dahlias. So here are the Dahlia tubers you saw me go retrieve out of the basement. I have a little dorm size fridge that I store them in at a perfect 45 degrees. And I was thinking I was going to need to label these, but honestly, this is my, I think, 3rd or 4th year growing dahlias, and I decided I'm not going to label them in my garden anymore. I'm just going to go for it because they're all beautiful. So, but what I did label is, I guess when I separated them last fall, I chose these 2 packages indicate dried cuts, meaning when I cut them and separated them, I let them cure for a little bit. I don't know, maybe a day, overnight. These 2 packages are filled with tubers that I didn't dry the cuts. In other words, I went ahead and just wrapped them up like I like to do. So let's do some opening up and see if the ones that I didn't dry, if that made them get rotten or whatever. Another thing I didn't mention is, oh yeah, this one's rotten. Dang it. Ooey gooey. So this one, I'll show you. Look at that. Let's see if I can get in front of this. You can see better. That's not good. That's squishy, so this one goes in the compost bin. All right, better take a look at these before I show you the next step. All right, so I think I'm going to start with the 2 bags where I chose not to dry them out or cure them after I made the cups. Let's see what shape these are in. So I like the saran wrap method. Actually, it's worked really well for me for years and years. So let's see. Yeah, those feel good. I'm going to do a tray of the ones I didn't dry. Oh, I already see an eye right there, an eye right there. This one's squishy. This little one bit the dust, so that's going in the compost heap. Let's get all of these out of the way. And let's take a look at what we've got here. So here's what I unwrapped, and in my little experiment, these represent the ones that when I divided them last fall, I did not let them cure or dry after I made the cuts and separated them. And this tray are the ones that I let cure, like, I don't know, half a day or overnight. I can't really remember exactly. But you know, when you cut them, to separate them, you know, you want to, the recommendation is you want to make sure you let them dry out a little bit. The fact of the matter is I had already packaged these up before I got too excited, I think, and before I realized, ooh, I should have let them dry out a little bit where the cut edges were and kind of cure. But you know what? It wasn't a huge difference, but I do believe that curing is probably better, meaning letting them dry out a little bit after you separate and cut them. These that I took out had no rot. I didn't lose any of these tubers. However, this group I lost, let's see, I put in the compost. Let's look down here. I think there's 4 tubers. 4 or 5 that were rotten. And those, again, are the ones I didn't let cure or dry out before wrapping them in plastic wrap. So that was a good experiment for me. I learned something, and so I will make sure this fall when I dig them and separate them, I'm going to make sure I let them dry out overnight, about 24 hours, so that any cut edges will kind of dry out and not really scab over, but that's sort of what it would be like for us. So yeah, so that was a good experiment for me. I learned something. So next, I'm going to share with you how I'm going to bury these in soil in these trays with just the neck and the crown sticking out. All right, so the directions that I read online said in your tray to put just a little bit of soil in the bottom so they're not sitting on the soil, and then to actually put a little bit extra on one end where you're going to start. And so there's going to be a little bit of a mound here. Oh, you probably can't see that, but trust me, this side is higher than this side. And then you take your Dahlia tubers and you nest them in, and they can be side by side. And so that's what I'm going to do. We're going to just put them side by side here. Get that chunk out of the way. We don't need a big chunk. And some long ones. We'll put some long ones over there. Oops. Can we fit another one in? You know what? I think I'm going to spread these out a little bit further. nothing like changing your mind. And then I'm supposed to cover the bodies. This is that part. So, you know, a Dahlia tuber, you have the body, the neck, and the crown. And it's in the crown that you have little swollen spots, which sends up the shoots that come out of the ground and produce the flowers. So let's see how I do with the next part. So I'm going to take some soil and cover up all but the necks and the crowns. Let's see if I can make that work. You don't have to cover them terribly deeply, but you definitely want to cover up their bodies because you don't want the bodies drying out. So here we go. Oh boy, fingers crossed. I hope this is going to work. Okay. Now I've got a chance to put some more soil in and another row. So to keep my experiment going and keep keep me straight, I have created a little label for this tray. Did not dry out, meaning I mentioned to you last year in the fall, I did not let these cure before I wrapped them in plastic wrap. And this one, these guys are going to get the let cure in the fall, so I can remember which ones. Oh, shucks. Okay, so you see where I can see some of the body? That's not good. Okay, I got to go back in and tidy these up a little bit more. I think I displaced the soil when I sprinkled in a little bit of the water to moisten the potting mix. So let me do that, and then we'll talk about the next step. So greenhouse growers can relate. It is time to do the seed tray shuffle. I showed you earlier all my seedlings I've been growing off. What I forgot to show you were all of my beautiful geraniums that I started from seed. That Maverick geranium seed that I started, and I only lost probably 2, maybe 3 plants, so they are doing great. So they're on my top shelf. And then I put my Dahlia tubers right next door to those. So we'll be watching. I honestly don't know how long it takes for them to start to sprout, but I will definitely pay attention to the moisture level, keeping it just slightly damp, the soil, and hope they'll sprout and I can see which one of those are viable. So feeling pretty good about today's progress in the greenhouse. Oh, you gotta just look at those nasturtiums and be happy. Look at that.